Good evening, and welcome to the Tea with April. The scenery looks different, right? I'm out of town. I'm at another uh, convention, another summer convention, another Black summer convention without Donald Trump. This time in Cleveland, Ohio, with the National Urban League. I'm speaking tomorrow, but cheers and let's sip some tea. We got a lot to talk about today. Everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 5:03 p.m. Eastern Time. Tell your friends we're getting ready to knock the pot over. We've got so much to talk about on this John Lewis Day. But before we get into John Lewis and talk to our guest, Karen Attiah, columnist at the Washington Post, and Arne Duncan, the former Secretary of Education for Barack Obama. He was also one of Barack Obama's basketball buddies, too. Remember that back in the day? But guys, let me tell you, we've got so much to talk about. And one thing I want to bring up, a couple things I want to bring up before we go to Karen Attiah. My dear friend Karen Attiah, we have many early morning calls. I'm going to let you in on some of these conversations. But listen, guys, did you hear the news today? As Donald Trump likes to talk about former President Joe Biden being ill, we're finally getting word that President Trump is not well himself. Now, the White House is saying that there are circulation issues, okay? That's what they're saying. But could it be more? They're at least in this moment acknowledging that something's wrong. We have seen President Trump with very large ankles, and we've also seen a spot on his hand that has makeup, clearly makeup has been placed on it. The White House says through a statement and from the podium today with Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, that the discoloration in his hand is from shaking hands a lot. And so there's a little bruising, but they say there's a circulation issue that deals with his legs. So let's see if that's it. They're telling us that, but we know indeed something is wrong. The cameras don't lie. They have not been edited and the cameras are not lying. And then, is this a retaliatory move? James Comey, the former FBI director, his daughter is the prosecutor in the Diddy trial. She has been fired. She's not an apprentice. She was a prosecutor, but she was fired. Her name is Maureen Comey. She was fired in the Diddy trial. I mean, there's just so much going on. And then also, it is John Lewis Day. And John Lewis was a friend of mine. I must say he's former congressman, civil rights leader. And I just want to regale you before we bring Karen Attiah on. John Lewis was a wonderful man who believed in peace. I remember one day being on a set of a show saying how upset I was about something. He said, I am with you as long as you do it peacefully. He was very peaceful. And also another thing about John Lewis, he said that his mother, the fact that his mother did not believe in the civil rights movement at the time, when he was a young man marching with Dr. King, it made him decide to go into that. It's in my book, At Mama's Knee. And I had a wonderful conversation with him. He said because of his mother's faith in God and her saying, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread, that strong faith that got her through the racist South, it could get him through the civil rights movement. And when he and Dr. King and all the other lieutenants got the Voting Rights Act, guess what? When they got it passed into law, she decided to join the movement and register people to vote too. So that's a little bit of something, a little piece of news or information that you can use on this great day celebrating our ancestor, great man, John R. Lewis. And without further ado, as I'm sipping my tea, I want to bring in my friend, Washington Post columnist, Karen Attiah. Karen, hello. Thank you so much for joining. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay considering
Everything that's
every.
going on. I know, right? You are making news. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but we're going to talk about the news of the day. The Epstein issue, right? This might be the kryptonite for Donald John Trump. Donald Trump has said he's Superman. Well, the White House put this caricature up of him being Superman. I, they slenderized him, made him younger, still had the same kind of hair, and he was shooting up in the sky.
Mm.
But it's this Jeffrey Epstein issue. the kryptonite that Lex Luthor's bringing in. We got to
Mm.
sip some tea on that one. Let's take a look and see what the president has to say, and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney general told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen
It's
of
not
that?
the attorney general, no. I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
It's just a red line that it crosses for many people. Jeffrey Epstein is literally the most well-known convicted pedophile in modern day history. This is something that's been talked about by many people serving in the administration, myself and many others on the right and the left, of there needing to be transparency of the rich and powerful elites that were in his circle while he was just one of the worst serial abusers of young women. It has been a very serious situation for the administration, and many people are speaking out online. You've seen it. You saw it at Turning Point Student Action Summit this weekend. And a lot of people in MAGA, they really want to know more information about the people that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And is there a blackmail list? And are there foreign countries' governments involved? And there's nothing wrong with people continuing to ask that.
Karen, President Trump's poll numbers are underwater, meaning his numbers are dropping below the median range of 50%. His numbers are underwater. You've got more people now supporting immigration versus supporting his deportation efforts and his rounding up efforts. And now you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, a big supporter, and a lot of MAGA upset about this. Why is this so important, and why should we pay attention to MAGA being upset?
Yeah, and again, thanks for having me on to talk about this. I mean, it's so interesting to me as grim and disgusting everything that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. For years, if you look at the sort of right and the MAGA culture, pedophilia, trafficking, global trafficking has been such a cultural touch point of the right? In terms of so much of even the attacks on books, the attacks on LGBT, trans, it's been this, the rationale, right, has been about protecting young people, protecting against trafficking, doing something against trafficking. And now here we have sort of dear leader of MAGA implicated in the legal system, convicting Epstein. We have all this evidence, and now all of a sudden, human trafficking, trafficking girls, abuse doesn't matter. Of course, it's going to make people upset, right? And I think there's a larger part to, again, just I'm thinking the sort of cultural kind of touch points of this whole issue, which is there's been this long thing about, global underground secret conspiracies, which are always aimed at the so-called global left and global cosmopolitan. Here you have this legitimate crime ring, this elite sexual predator crime ring that, and it's interesting that you bring up Superman, right? I mean, if anything, you would think that Donald Trump could be once again the hero of the right and transparency, honesty, release, be honest, right, about the harm that this man caused, right? To distance himself, I didn't know, but instead it just becomes deny, attack, and people are getting tired, I think.
And are you still talking, and this is President, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Yes, we are, because some information was supposed to be released, And
Mhm.
they said they had it and now they don't. It's like it goes back and forth. What's what, who's who at the zoo. And it's so interesting. I'm here in Cleveland. Flew into Cleveland to get today. And one of the signs, this is the birthplace of Superman. I said, it just reinforced everything in this moment, the kryptonite. So going to our chat, people said, thankful for you both. I don't believe in silver bullets, but would love Epstein to be Trump's.
Right.
When MTG Marjorie Taylor Greene is making sense, the world is upside down. The world is upside down. That's from Hamilton. Until we have an equal rights amendment, women will be subjected to abuse with impunity. And love you, women. We love you more. Thank you. So at the end of the day, and you kind of cover this and give us analysis, where do you think this is going to end? How do you think it's going to end?
I mean, Donald Trump is betting on he goes through this laundry list of like legitimate things that he did overcome that did not impede his ability to be reelected. All right. Multiple impeachments. I mean, hell, thinking about Superman, kryptonite, literal bullets, right? And so
And people are still questioning the ear thing. I've even seen
yeah.
the Evander Holyfield ear from Mike Tyson, where there's a chunk, and people have put Donald Trump's current ear up against, they've highlighted it, and you don't even see a scratch. That's just what we're seeing on the internet. I'm not espousing that that's true. I'm just saying. But a lot of what he is under a microscope right now. Period. He is under a microscope by his base and by the world at large, not just here in the United States.
Right. If anything, I think we're in a pretty dangerous time. And authoritarians like Donald Trump, when confronted with truth, when confronted with even being questioned by their own party, look what happens even with Musk and the threats that he leveled against Musk, the threats that he's leveled against law firms. I wish, to be honest, Ryan, April, excuse me, I wish I could feel like this would bring him down. However, this man has been shown already to find ways to bring people he finds disloyal in his party, entire institutions to their knees.
Yeah, that's true.
So that being said, as much as this should be the kryptonite, even I cannot believe I'm like in defense of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it is here in the upside down world.
What is it? The bleach blonde, bad built body. You're in defense of her.
That's not even defense. I'll just be like, she better watch her back, right? This is
that part. But this is not the first time she's gone against Donald Trump. But we don't have as much time as I would love to have with you. But I want to go to something else. We saw the cuts, $9 billion in cuts. And some of that is going to media, national public radio. I said this morning that the contrarian guys, you all need to be pulling other people here because we are the last bastion of actual no holds barred, unfettered, unfiltered news and information that's factual, right? And now they're trying to curb the NPR organizations, member radio stations. I started in radio in an NPR station in Baltimore, WEAA, which I still love so much. And I listen to every week. What happens to that station? What happens to those PBS TV stations that are viewer driven? They have those donation drives. And that's one of the things that they're doing now. And you, because of the climate, you got kind of caught up in this anti-woke, anti-DEI situation, right? You were teaching at Columbia, and they told you, and what was the course?
I was teaching a class on race and journalism at the International Affairs and International Affairs School, International Public Affairs School at Columbia. Yeah.
Race and journalism. So what would you have said if you were in there this semester?
Ooh, what would I have said if
Yeah.
if I was teaching? I would have said the truth. And probably in terms of, I mean, look, Columbia is part of a long line of, again, back to what we were talking about at the top of this conversation, an institution that is well, being pressured, being forced to bend the knee to
Yes.
under the supposed guise of fighting anti-Semitism. Yeah. And I personally see this, and I would tell my students, this is actually exactly what I was teaching about before my class got cut, about the distortions in media, about the use of race and identity as a pretext for cutting our freedom of speech, for cutting diversity, and using identity purging institutions, frankly, of, first of all, Black and brown people, using identity as a reason to bring down elite institutions. And I would have told my students, and I have been saying that whether it was anti-Semitism, whether it was DEI, the right for decades has been wanting to bring down education, public education, PBS. I see this public media, higher education as, for all of their issues, an attempt to get people to think critically. And it makes people harder to control. And so this is the only way that they can do it. They're not winning in the marketplace of ideas on a fair fight. They're using force.
So listen, we got to bring former Education Secretary Arne Duncan from the Obama administration in. But before we let you go, this woman, Karen Attiah,
Recognized.
she did not teach at Columbia University, but guess what? She created her own classroom on the web, and 500 students. And she says, what did you say? The most of the students come from Canada, but it's a worldwide class, and there are various tiers. Congratulations to you. You beat the system. You went around what they tried to stop you from doing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you did your second class. How would people sign up for your class, Karen?
Yeah, so right now, we're running our summer pilot cohort for 6 weeks. We just finished the second class yesterday. There's a waiting list for fall. I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna teach this as long as my body and spirit can hold out. I want to reach as many people as possible. The course is Race, Media, and International Affairs. So exactly the things that we're talking about right now, the intersection of race, of power, and how the media, right, helps us or hurts us when it comes to these issues. That's what I'm teaching. So people can sign up for the wait list. You can access the material for as little as $100, right? And this is an Ivy League course. This is taught by me. We will have discussion sections. It's been a whole lot of fun. It's been a blessing, to be honest.
An Ivy League course taught by Karen Attiah of the Washington Post.
Yes.
Independent journalism at its best. Congratulations to you. How can people reach you, though?
Yes, so you can find me on all the socials at Karen Attiah, Blue Sky, Substack. My Substack is The Golden Hour. And the school is at resistancesummerschool.com. So if you look up Resistance Summer School, you will see us, and you can sign up for the wait list there. So yes, see y'all in class.
See you in class. Karen Attiah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you for joining the tea. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio today, so I don't have my teacup, but I'm the tea with April. But thank you for joining and sipping with me. You knocked the ball over.
Thank you. Thank you.
Karen. Thank you, Karen. We'll talk to you soon. So guys, we're going to go right into our next guest. We're talking about education. And this man, I tell you, I have an affinity for. I had an affinity for him even when I knew something was special about him beyond being the education secretary. But he and I are like-minded when we talk about civics still being taught in schools. Because if we had civics in schools, we wouldn't be having half the mess that we have today. People would understand how government works, what's right, what's wrong. January 6th wasn't supposed to happen. That was wrong. It was illegal. Those kind of things. Without further ado, I would love to bring to you the former Education Secretary, Arne Duncan. He's the former Education Secretary in the Obama administration. And guess what? He also played basketball with the president. And before he comes in, I want to show you something. I want to tell you something. Someone says, yes, please teach and educate. Yes, please teach and educate. We will be protesting in John Lewis's memory tonight. Good for you. As more believers feel they've been betrayed, some will wake up. Hello, Arne Duncan. I'm woke. I woke up this morning. You get it?
Good afternoon, April. How are you doing? So good to see you.
It's so great to see you, and thank you for sipping tea with me. I know, right? I gave you some big props because of who you are and the conversations we have. You always make me think. You make me delve into stories, the backstories, even deeper. You make me critically think. You make
right back at you. And I got to say, my wife is a student in Karen's class. So
really?
yeah, she's really enjoying it.
Wait, your wife is a student in Karen Attiah's class.
She started last week, so she's really enjoying it. Yeah.
That is crazy. I hope Karen is still watching. I wonder if she knows. Well, we'll tell. I'll text her.
There's no reason she wouldn't know, but she's very appreciative. Very appreciative.
Oh wow, that's crazy. That's amazing. Yeah. So, former Secretary Duncan, we are seeing cuts everywhere. Education, Sesame Street. When I was a kid, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street and all those other little places? They taught us our ABCs and do the what is scrub in the tub with the little rubber ducky. Yeah, you know, all that stuff. Yeah. They taught us along with our parents. They just reinforced, and the teachers reinforced what we're learning in a fun way. But now there are cuts there to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, cuts at NPR, and also cuts in the Department of Education. What say you, sir, in this moment of cuts that some people feel are immoral?
Yeah, well, the cuts are obviously horrific and incredibly disheartening. But April, you know this as well as I do. It's much bigger than this. This is an assault on democracy, and it's really an assault on freedom. And the assault on higher education, the assault on K-12 education, the assault on the press that you have felt, the assault on religion, the assault on personal freedoms, the assault on the freedoms of legal immigrants. This is an attempt to end democracy. And these are all the acts of a leader who wants to be a dictator or authoritarian leader. So the cuts are horrific, but I don't want to lose the forest for the trees as part of a much larger strategy that's incredibly scary for the country. On the education cuts specifically, guess who they're going to hurt most? His base. It's children in red states. That's where the poor children are. That's the children
Kentucky, who need Appalachia, Kentucky,
Mississippi, Alabama. You go right down the list.
South,
and so, his supporters have always been dispendable. He could care less about them. They got him elected. He's done with them now. But I'm scared for education. Absolutely. Head Start, K-12, Sesame Street. The woman who runs Sesame Street's a good friend of mine. She's been doing amazing work. Higher ed, but it's part of a larger strategy to end our democracy. And that we've never faced anything like this in yours and my lifetime or any of our lifetimes. And I want your viewers, your listeners to truly understand what's at stake here.
The Republican Party is a party that likes to talk about states' rights. And we recently talked to the governor of the state of Maryland, Wes Moore. He said there is a hole and you cannot marry states' rights with this hole. Is he right about this?
Well, again, there is no more Republican. The Republican Party's done. It's over. Like, Trump is the party. And so, none of them have a spine or a backbone or a willingness to speak truth to power. And if you do, you automatically say the next day you're not running again. You disqualify yourself. So he has a stranglehold on the party. So yes, all the things that theoretically, the Republican Party was for, states' rights, smaller government. This is big government. This is banning books, assaulting higher education. This is big government at its worst, at its absolute worst. We've never seen anything like this. And so those, quote unquote, Republican talking points or principles are long gone, are long gone. And it's just absolutely disingenuous. How can you be pro-family and then take away health care? How can you be pro-family and take away access to Head Start? It's so disingenuous and dishonest. And whether his supporters ever wake up, I don't know. Whether folks in Congress ever grow a backbone or a spine, I don't know. I hope that there's a real price for Republicans to pay in Congress, next year in the midterms. But April, I'm just so concerned about the kids and the families that are going to be hurt now. Like, it's devastating. And so that's and he, cruelty is the point with him. That's not an accident. It's the point. And so that's what we're seeing play out.
Is it cruelty or just a straight up always me? It's
both. I mean, it's always about him. Always about him. Does not have an empathetic or compassionate bone in his body. But it's everything. Just there's no moral compass. There's no intellectual curiosity. There's no empathy. There's no compassion. And I look for all leaders, whether they be nonprofit leaders or corporate leaders or elected officials. You want them to care about other people. You want it to be about how do you help uplift other people, and that's what we tried to do that every day, and we did it absolutely imperfectly. And but I can tell you, every single day we woke up trying to think, how do you help people, and particularly the most vulnerable. And what I hate about a bully like Trump is that they always pick on the weakest. They always pick on the most vulnerable, and that's so whether it's children who are trans or whatever it might be, which is a tiny percent, whether it's immigrant children, whatever it might be, you pick on the most vulnerable. And the immigration stuff is devastating. They're not arresting criminals; they're arresting people who are working hard, who are supporting the families, who are making our country better, who are taking care of their families. And so it's just the level of dishonesty on this stuff is staggering.
So I want to go to the chat real quick. Sesame Street was my introduction to a multicultural neighborhood, which they hate. That's true. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Ooh, gives me goosebumps. I remember that. They want us uneducated, so we're easier to control. Very good point. Thank you so much for talking about this topic. In every dictatorship, it's the same L. Make the parents freeze in fear and indoctrinate the children. Wow. And someone is worried about Title I funds. What do you say about Title I funds in this moment of cuts?
Yeah, everything is under assault. And so whether it's Title I money or after school money or money for ELL again, or money for Head Start to get our babies off to a good start, it's all under assault. And there's no rhyme or reason for why they're taking it other than to hurt the most vulnerable. And yes, if you want to be a dictator, if you want to be an authoritarian leader, you want to be the only source of quote unquote truth. And so exactly what one of your viewers said, you don't want people who can think critically. You don't want people who can discern misinformation from disinformation. You don't want people who study history. And so all those things, higher education, K to 12, those things are very scary to an authoritarian leader. You want to dismantle that. And so that's exactly what's going on here.
What about children's rights?
Yeah, he's got no interest. I hate the Office of Civil Rights. When I was there, it was led by an amazing leader, Catherine Lehman, where children's rights were violated. At the local district level, at the state level, folks could come to our Office of Civil Rights, and we were like the court of last resort and try and get some relief from the trauma that they were experiencing. And now the Office of Civil Rights is just throwing all those things out the window, not even looking at it. I'll give you my worst, not the worst. There are too many horrible examples we saw. I'll just give you one without being too graphic. But there was a girl in a Republican state who was raped in the school's band room. And the school suspended her for lewd behavior. So imagine you get raped in your band room and you get suspended for lewd behavior. That case came to us. That's the kinds of things the Office of Civil Rights has to deal with. I hate that we had to, but I'm so glad that we were there for that young girl and her family. and try and give her some relief from the trauma and then the re-traumatizing by the district. Those are the kinds of things that are just not even getting looked at now.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking about those years, those 8 years, but you weren't there for all the 8 years. But I remember you and Obama stood shoulder to shoulder and had major conversations about education. We don't see that today. President Obama stood shoulder to shoulder with Eric Holder, but they were not conversing about laws. President Obama did not influence Eric Holder. But there is such a polar opposite in this moment. When the optics, when you believe in something, you're going to show that you're there. We're not seeing that. So it's showing that he doesn't care as much about education as we do.
It's not that he doesn't care about it. He is scared by it. It is a threat to him. It's worse than not caring. It's an absolute threat to what he's trying to do. Let me say, April, we have at least two crises in education today. We have a reading crisis. If you saw the recent NAEP scores for the country, we're nowhere near where we need to be. And we have a chronic absenteeism crisis. And these things are related. Too many kids missing, a month, 2 months of schools. Those are very real things that we have to deal with as a country, because that's going to hurt our country long term if we have a generation of children who are uneducated, who drop out, who don't have basic literacy skills. And April, there's not a single thing Trump has done since he's been in office that'll help one more child learn how to read or encourage one more child to go to school. So in fact, everything he's doing is actually exacerbating those problems. But that's what's so devastating to me. Like, education should be the ultimate bipartisan or nonpartisan issue. As you know, we worked so closely with so many Republican governors who were great leaders. Governor Haslam, I worked with in Tennessee. He was amazing. Governor Kasich in Ohio. I can go right down the list because this is nation building work. This is not left or right or whatever. What he's doing is not nation building work. It's nation destroying work. It's an assault on freedom.
Back at the chat, someone said, you are so on point. And the education system in the US was already bad as it is. I want my kids to be better off and smarter than me. When you're shoving immigrants out, no purpose in trying to integrate and educate. That was powerful. What happens to our kids who are special needs, IEP? What happens to them now?
Well, the marginalized always get hurt the most by bullies. That's who also, whether it's children with special needs, which again are children in every state. I think it's, the numbers might not be exact, but I think it's like 7 million children have IEPs across the country. Children in my hometown, Chicago, and lots of children in Mississippi and Alabama, West Virginia. And those children deserve the best that we can give them. Children who are English language learners, children of immigrants who love this country, they all deserve the best. After school programs for me, if I grew up, my mother ran an after school program for 52 years until her health care. I literally grew up in her after school program. My sister and brothers. Why do the work I do? Because she was always trying to do it from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night, what kids weren't getting during the day. So when you take $7 billion out and cut after school funding, you take away kids' chances to get tutoring, to get enrichment, art and sports and band and whatever. And April, this as a parent, those after school hours are often a time of huge anxiety for parents. Parents are working 1 job, 2 jobs. They want their kids safe. And the safest place for them to be is in the school. He's taking all of that away. All of that away.
They're stealing our children's future. That's what just came from the chat. If you had a chance to talk to the president, if he pulled a consortium of all the former education secretaries, you, Rod Page, and others, what would you say to President Trump?
I mean, for better or worse, me, I'm pretty honest.
Yeah.
I would just tell him he's the biggest threat to our country's democracy that we've had since World War II. And, he is, talk about, all threats, domestic and in other country. He's the biggest threat we've had to our democracy. It's not Russia today. It's not China. And unless we're willing to confront that together, I worry about our nation. I think a lot about civil rights movement. I think a lot about the Montgomery bus boycott. I mean, we can do a march once a month or whatever, no King's March. You know, my wife and I, we were out there. But honestly, that's insufficient to the size of the challenge. It's insufficient to the threat we are facing. And this is going to take massive, nonviolent, public resistance. This is going to take people being willing to make the sacrifices that John Lewis and so many did, you know, during the civil rights movement, to march and stamp us. And there will be pain. There will be fear. People will get hurt. But that's the battle that we are facing. And we have to come to terms with that and understand that. And so if I were to ever see him, I would be as honest with him as I am trying to be honest with you and your viewers, your listeners.
We're all being saddled with these horrible decisions, and we are all singing to the choir among ourselves. We know it's bad, but no one is offering a solution except the 2026 elections. That part's true. Those elections are not resolving the current situation.
Yeah.
Someone says, I love how you read from the chat, April. We have been working on the local level. Oh, this is an interactive platform, guys. I believe people need to be seen and heard, because that's part of the problem. People have not felt like they've been seen and heard. We want to give you voice. So please tell your friends to tune into the tea, because every week we're spilling the tea and we're knocking the pot over. Arne, Duncan is. So now I'm going to switch up some lanes, guys. And if people want to reach you about education, where can they reach you? And what are you working on now?
Yeah, so I've shifted gears a little bit. I've past almost 9 years now, April, I've been working to reduce gun violence in my hometown, Chicago. It's the hardest work I've ever done. It's the most heartbreaking, honestly, but also I think the most meaningful work I've ever done, and definitely for me the most inspiring. We're seeing the largest reductions in gun violence that we've seen since I was a baby in our city. So we just did a press conference actually, 2 days ago, with the mayor, with the Cook County Board President, with the business community, with the philanthropic community. We have a long way to go, but our city's getting much, much, much safer. We had our safest April in 60 years. We've had 3 consecutive years of reductions. If we have another reduction this year, we're down about 35%. We will have had 4 years in a row of less shootings and less homicides, and that'll be the first time in 20 years. So we're trying to make history here.
And now shifting gears, and congratulations on that. It's a big deal. Who's the three-pointer, you or Barack Obama?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one, April. I'll just say
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't.
I'll say 2 things. The president was an amazing teammate and loved playing with him. And no surprise, he was, smart player, competed hard, wanted to win. And I would say that's the only place where he could just be Barack, not Mr. President. And
you can call him Barack as Mr. President.
No, I'm just saying the basketball court was that's the sanctuary.
Okay.
And people ask, like, did you take it easy on him when you're playing against him? Like, no, when I was playing against him, I was trying to kick his butt. That would ruin the game. So we were more often than not, we were teammates. But we had, that was an amazing thing. And for me, that was huge stress relief. And it still is. I play every morning. Played this morning. Have a great group of guys here. But he was obviously under a level of stress exponentially higher than anything I was. And for him and all of us to have that sanctuary to compete and have some camaraderie, I can't tell you how important that was.
And when you talk about stress, and you are close to the Obamas, Mrs. Obama came out yesterday saying, both of them came out, this is not true. And I love the fact that they did it. But people forgot the reason why she didn't show up for the inauguration or Jimmy Carter's funeral. She didn't want to hear from Donald Trump, and because her family has been threatened because of the words he's used, and she didn't want to sit next to him at Jimmy Carter's funeral. And she just lost her own mother not long ago. Can you elaborate on this and knowing them?
Yeah, well, I went to her mother's funeral. Marion was just this unbelievable woman of grace and kindness who gave up her life here in Chicago, where she loved, to come help raise the 2 girls in the White House. And the fact those girls have turned out to be beautiful, smart young women is a huge credit to Barack and to Michelle and to Marion. And it's just, again, they're just such opposite people. The Baracks have absolute integrity. Trump has no integrity. The Obamas have tremendous compassion and empathy. He doesn't understand what that is. He doesn't understand sacrifice. He doesn't understand why people would go in the military. They were, I love Marion. Her husband was an amazing man, wonderful family. Michelle's older brother, Craig, is one of my really good friends. We grew up playing ball together. I got to know Michelle. That was Craig's little sister's boyfriend. That's how I got to know Barack. He was Craig's little sister's boyfriend. That's how far back it goes. But these were committed folks to their family, and neither Marion nor her husband went to college. Craig and Michelle were both first-generation college goers. So from an integrity standpoint, a moral compass standpoint, a compassion standpoint, a empathy standpoint, a point of public service, the Obamas are at one end of the spectrum and Trump is at the exact other. And so they could not be more opposites on any continuum that you might measure.
I've never seen Mrs. Obama push President Obama away when he gives her love. Melania, I know, right? I know. I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, someone said the New York Knicks need you, Arne.
Well, I wish they did. I'd be there in a hot second, but I don't think they need me. My college coach, my assistant college coach, was a Knicks coach the past few years, Tom Thibodeau. And unfortunately, they just fired him. So I've been talking to him. I don't feel great about that, but they had a great run with him. The best they've done in 25 years. And so I hate that he got fired, but I've been following the Knicks very, very closely the past couple of years because Coach Thibodeau was so good to me when I was in college.
But that's amazing. You're still playing b-ball. Do you and the president still play at all? Is he still?
No, I think he's moved on to golf. I'm never going to pick up a golf club, so I don't do that. But honestly, given the stress and frankly the trauma I deal with every day, that's really my therapy.
The outlet.
Is to get out there and play and talk to the guys and compete and go at it. So it's I'm 60 now, so slower than ever, but I need it more than ever. We have a great group of guys. We've playing together for 20, 30 years, and I need that camaraderie. I need that fellowship. I need that to help me heal when I see, unfortunately, too many nights here on the streets of Chicago.
Well, let me say this. You have been a healer for us in this conversation. I want to thank you so much. I just said, let me text Arne Duncan and see if he could come on. And you said yes. But before you go, they want us to listen to this voicemail message. I want you, because you've been paying attention to politics too. I want you to listen to, we're getting voicemails now. I tell people if you have something you want to say it. I want you to listen and I want you to tell me what you think, because you are always perusing the news as well. Guys, let's take a listen to this message from one of the team supporters and followers.
Hi, April. This is Judy from Andover, Massachusetts. I'm not a New Yorker, but I think that Mamdani is a pretty exciting candidate. I hear from New York friends that he's very divisive. Well, not that he's divisive, that he's causing a lot of controversy in the city. But then I'm also hearing people say, oh, well, he's going to just allow MAGA to label the Democrats as all, far right, far left, socialist, blah, 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 blah. I'd just be interested in your thoughts. Thanks.
Blah, 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 blah. I like that part. What do you think about Mamdani in education?
Yeah, I don't know where he stands in education. What I will say, April, is you have a Democratic mayor who by any measure is corrupt and corrupted and corruptible. So he's, disqualifying himself. And then you had him running against Andrew Cuomo, that is a well-documented serial abuser of women. And same as Trump. Democrats have less of a tolerance for that than Republicans. So Trump was able to survive despite his decades of abuse of women. Andrew Cuomo was not. And so I just, it's one thing to talk about the midterms in 2026 or whatever. The most important thing we need is great candidates. And people don't vote for a party anymore. The Democratic parties, for all the challenging Republicans, the Democratic Party is not very popular now. And honestly, I think for good, for very reasonable reasons. And so we need candidates that are going to inspire, they're going to create hope, that are going to motivate the next generation. And that's what he did. And people can agree or disagree on any issue. And I don't know, I have no clue, honestly, what he thinks on education. But we need great candidates to step up and run for these offices.
It sounds like you were coming back to a candidate who had this obscure name who had some ears who played basketball. Hope and change. You know, someone who's not a part of the system, who's going to shake it up. I think the system is broken. People, as you say, people are looking for someone to fix, to heal, for them to be seen. And it's interesting. I talked to former Democratic Governor David Patterson last week, and I asked him, if not Mamdani, who? And he couldn't give me an answer. He said, I'm watching, but he's come out against Mamdani. But he was giving a little bit of grace to Eric Adams. So we just have to see how this thing plays out. But all I know is this nation deserves better. This nation deserves servants who understand the job and understands that New York is a whole different animal and needs a lot of love. And this nation, we deserve someone who understands this nation has such power and influences the globe and cares for us. Because right now, I think we're lost children. I feel like an orphan.
Yeah. And I'll just go back to where I started, that I think too often Democrats can be seen, rightfully so, as a party of the elites, and we always have a program or a policy or whatever. We have to be the party that fights for freedom. And freedom is under assault in our nation now in a way it never has been. And so we don't need another program. We don't need to sell another. We need to say that we're going to fight for your freedom to have an education, your freedom to go to Head Start, your freedom to live free of fear of gun violence, you know, freedom of the press. And we're not going to tolerate the assault on the judicial system. And we have to be the party that fights for freedom. And I think that will appeal, again, whether it's traditional Democratic base or to Republican, folks in Republican areas, red states, red areas that are seeing their freedoms, just eviscerated now. That's for me, it's not about message. It's got to be about reality. That's the reality. Freedom is under assault, and we got to stand in that gap, stand in that void, and fight for freedom. And I'll just say one more thing quickly is that, yes, 2026 elections are hugely, hugely, hugely important. Can't overstate that. But we can't sit here and wait for that, because the amount of destruction that's happening every single day is staggering. I want to repeat what I said. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. We'd have massive civil disobedience, lawful, peaceful, but we need to take this to the streets. Millions of people, day after day. That's the only way you beat down a dictator, is massive demonstrations, massive civil resistance. That's what we need, not in 2026. That's what we need now.
Now, on this John Lewis Day, you called for freedom and taking it to the streets. That's not a Doobie Brothers song. He's talking about getting your shoes. I remember that? Taking it to the... Oh my gosh, I'm going to listen. Guys, if you don't know about the Doobie Brothers and taking it to the streets, you better find out. So, Arne Duncan, I appreciate you. You are a great American. You're a great Chicagoan, and I adore you. Thank you so much.
Well, back at you, and I've always loved your heart and your integrity and your courage. And anytime you call, I'm going to be there. You know that.
You sure are. I appreciate you. Thank you for sipping the tea. And tell your wife she's got to check in with me on that class, because I'm a text Karen. I cannot believe that. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Arne Duncan, for joining us today. You can sign off. We got you. I kept you longer than I should have. But you tell President Obama I said, hey. And tell Mrs. Obama I said, hey.
Well, do you take care of yourself. Talk soon now.
Talk to you soon. Guys, this has been a show. This has been a show. Taking it to the streets. I'm going to tell you, I'm getting ready to play that Doobie Brothers little ditty. Taking it to the streets. And then I'm thinking, and that's on this John Lewis Day, because that's what they're doing. Taking it to the streets. And I'm thinking about Sesame Street, one of my favorite songs when I was raising my babies, okay? One is 23 and one is 17. They had a little ditty back in the day called the Rubber Ducky. Rubber Ducky, you're so fine. Then they jazzed it up, and it was like kind of Jamaican. Do the duck, do the duck, do the rubber duck. Let me tell you something. Sesame Street was there for me and my children. And I am so upset that our newer generations may not know what Big Bird and Cookie Monster, C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. And the Grouch, Oscar the Grouch in the trash can. But they taught us something. They brought us in, right? I'm so sad about what we're becoming and where we are now. But on this John Lewis Day, that's what Arne Duncan was talking about, freedom. The freedom to go out and peacefully protest and show your displeasure because it may change something. And let me go back to the chat. Someone said, we need the younger generation. Yes, we do. We need candidates that can inspire us. That is true. I can think of a couple. Right now. I know one of them, Arne Duncan, just inspired me. And so did Karen Attiah. But Arne Duncan's not running for office, and neither is Karen Attiah. But Wes Moore, governor of Maryland. We also have the mayor of Baltimore. Homicide rate is down. Crime is down in Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. There are a lot of people around this country that are unsung heroes. Think about the Jasons in Tennessee. There's so many different people. Find those people and buy into them because they need you. And then, okay, someone said people who understand the definition of service and leadership. That's the part. It's not about, look at me. It's about, politics is about people. It's about humanity. That's what it is. It's not about, look at me, I'm sitting here. So I don't know. This has been a really, really great show. I thank you as I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, not on my back porch and not in my house sipping the tea. Thank you for joining me. I want you to come back next Thursday, same place, same time. Oh, we got a show lined up for next week. I can't tell you, but we got a good show that you're going to want to join in. Tell a friend, subscribe, because you're getting free and unfettered information here, right? And you want to keep it flowing. Subscribe, guys, subscribe to the Contrarian, subscribe to me, and keep watching the tea. We thank you so much. The Tea with April Ryan is over and out. Do the rubber duck, do the duck, do the rubber duck on this John Lewis Day. Guys, thank you so much. Be well.